Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, after all the brutal murders of several albinos by witch doctors in Tanzania, which we've covered in the past month, 4 people have been sentenced to death after being found guilty of murdering an albino woman. The 4 were believed to have killed the woman back in 2008 because they believed her body parts had special powers. According to the judge in the northwestern town of Geita, the 22-year-old woman left behind a 9-month-old child. And unfortunately, her husband is one of those who was convicted for the murder. Tanzania's president this week vowed to tackle the killing of albinos who are targeted for superstitious reasons. The country is struggling to curb a wave of violence against people with albinism. Witch doctors say the potions made from albino parts can bring good luck and wealth. Now, in the past month, like I said earlier, we've looked at the challenges which albinos have specifically faced in Africa. We started off in the beginning of last month, that's in February. We told you about issues or warnings which were issued by the United Nations concerning albinos, especially now that it's a period of elections in the African continent. The United Nations did say that witch doctors are willing to pay as high as $75,000 to secure the limbs of an albino. And this time last week, we also had Jacob Pele on the program who told us about the challenges which hinder albinos from participating in elections, and we covered that extensively. And we also had that discussion with Emmanuel Tubiele, who now joins us via Skype. He would have liked to be here, but unfortunately could not. But Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us again on Network Africa.
You're very welcome.
Emmanuel, it's indeed good to see you. Well, how does it feel 1 week after you said the government should not wait for the United Nations to do something, but should do something themselves? It looks as though that's what the Tanzanian government did. How does it feel to know that justice has been served for a woman who was just like you and was killed just because she was an albino?
Actually, it feels so good to know that justice has finally been served, because the gruesome murder of people like me has gotten to a very top level that it can't be taken anymore. So once the government is able to do something good about it, then it's good news for us, because most albinos have found themselves in this situation whereby they find themselves helpless. So right now they won't have that chance to find themselves helpless anymore, because they know the government is behind them.
So now Tanzania has basically set an example for the rest of Africa. We know we do have laws against such treatment like that in Nigeria, but what lessons can we learn from this case? What do you believe we can learn from this case, with this justice being secured for this late woman, unfortunately?
One lesson I have come to learn is this, that no matter how big you are, it's not about saying you are the biggest or you are the best. We can copy something from countries who seem to be smaller than we are. Okay? Now, in that country, justice has been served. So if we are like the giants of Africa, then I believe we can do something better and greater. It's not just in mouth. We can stand up and do something. We are all Africans. We can stand up for ourselves. In Nigeria, it can also be done. Because whether we like it or not, in certain parts of Nigeria too, it is being practiced. You know, even sometimes when I pass, the statements are being made, passes are made that, hey, catch him, we can use him to do money. Unless the government of Nigeria can say, okay, this kind of thing is not allowed for certain people like this, of this nature. Until that is done, we cannot move forward in Nigeria. So I applaud Tanzania for that effort, and I believe other African countries should do the same.
Well said, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for speaking with us on Network Africa. We're really glad to have you again. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Anytime. You're welcome.
Now, from what's happening in Tanzania to another case in Egypt, we're looking at court cases there, and judicial sources have confirmed that an Egyptian court opened the trial on Thursday, March the 5th, of 213 suspected militants, including members of the army and police, on charges of joining Egypt's most active militant group and attempting to assassinate the interior minister. Egypt has been grappling with rising Islamist militancy since then Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Sisi ousted freely elected President Mohamed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood in 2013 after mass protests against his rule. Now, hundreds of soldiers and policemen have been killed in deadly attacks, which the Sinai-based Ansar Beit al-Maqdis group has claimed responsibility for. The group changed its name to Sinai Province after pledging allegiance to the Islamic State. The hardline Sunni militant group that has seized swathes of Iraq and Syria. It's important to note that the Egyptian authorities make no distinction between either the Muslim Brotherhood, or the Islamic State, and Al-Qaeda, arguing that they have a shared ideology and are all dangerous. The judge, that's Hassan Farid, who is presiding over the case, adjourned proceedings until April the 4th after indictments were read out.